I feel like I might be the only person in the media world who has yet to discuss pickleball. It has been covered everywhere. Its impressive trajectory and continued growth as the fastest growing sport in the world. The fact that tons of high-profile athletes and very, very rich individuals and even companies continue to just throw their money at it. The fact that the tennis world and the pickleball world have in some ways gone to war, that there is a rift between those two communities. It is a topic that I haven't talked much about until now because I had never played. And I wanted to play it and then talk about it. I'm going to make this ultra personal. What was my experience playing pickleball like, and how was that informative of this phenomenon, this rise in pickleball participation, professional pickleball leagues, and the construction of pickleball courts? The way pickleball was presented to me as an outsider was, well, the sport is really growing because it's accessible and anybody can play. And the reason I'm getting to this now is because I went on vacation to San Diego with my girlfriend and her family, which is a family of 4, including my girlfriend. I went on the trip, making it 5, and we played some doubles at a resort that has pickleball courts and tennis courts. But what I found is the pickleball phenomenon is as advertised. I went out there and I saw for myself that the idea that you can get a bunch of regular adults, older adults, younger adults alike, and if we had children, they would have fit in just fine. And you can get them on a pickleball court with zero experience, and they can have a good time. They can play the sport of pickleball and have a good time pretty much regardless of differing levels of coordination and athleticism. And by the way, on this resort where you have casual people from all walks of life who are just trying to enjoy warm, relatively, San Diego in the wintry month of December. Again, this is anecdotal. The tennis courts were empty. The pickleball courts were packed. In the resort setting, again, a bunch of families trying to vacation. That's what we have here. A bunch of families trying to vacation. Pickleball is the more attractive option because it's easier. And let me describe to you why it's easier, which is something that a lot of people have left out. Let me get technical for a second. It's very, very simple. The court is small. The ball doesn't bounce very much. You have the first part of the equation of racket sports, which is getting your feet in the right position to hit the ball. And in pickleball, that's a lot easier. Then you got to hit the ball. And you got to hit the ball in. That's the key. It's easier in pickleball because the way the wiffle ball and the paddle interact, there is not a lot of power. There is not a lot of power. The less power, the more control. You can hit the ball pretty hard and still control it. The ball doesn't go long very easily because the power is so muted. So it's easy to get your feet in the right spot. It's easy to control the ball because it's such a low power setup. The paddle is kind of wood and rigid, not very, flexible. And again, the wiffle ball, it's not a bouncy ball. So it doesn't really come off your racket with a lot of speed. Makes it easy to control. So you get the ball in. And when you get the ball in, you get rallies. And that's what makes racket sports fun. It's what makes ping pong fun. It's what makes tennis fun. It's what makes badminton fun. Where does volleyball fit in? Is that a racket sport? Same kind of thing. Boundaries, net, ball goes back and forth. Rallies are fun. Not rallies, hitting the ball out, not being able to get it in, not as fun. Just not as fun. So pickleball is designed for you to have those rallies. It's designed that way. And that's what makes it accessible. Now, How do I feel about that? Is that great? Should we celebrate pickleball for these qualities? That's the first thing I want to talk about. And it's complicated. In a way, yes. In a way, it's freaking awesome that on this vacation where we went to the beach, we ate good food, we tried to go on a couple hikes, one of the activities that was as enjoyable as any of the others was going out there to play pickleball. It was a lot of fun, and that's awesome that anybody can just go pick it up and do it. And it's, an activity that is just so accessible and family oriented and fun. And it's a racket sport where you get outside and you get some exercise and you inevitably have some laughs and you compete, which is always kind of fun. So that part is good. The part that's not good is if it comes in the way of what I feel is so rewarding about tennis and other sports that I've participated in. And it doesn't have to be a sport. It can be even like, I don't know, a video game. Hard is good. Hard is actually the whole point. There's nothing better in life that you can do than accomplish difficult things. There is nothing that builds character. There is nothing that you will feel better about in life than working on something that's really hard, accomplishing it, improving at it. That's what it's all about. And that process is the point. That process is sports. I always say, tennis, although it's difficult, it's not the hardest thing I've ever done athletically. The hardest thing I've ever done was I started training in jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu is a sport where, a little bit unlike tennis, there's very little reward when you're starting out. In tennis, you can get lucky as a beginner with a couple of good shots. Maybe you can win a point here and there. And you get that rush of dopamine where you feel like you were successful. Even if you're a beginner and your coach is just feeding you shots, sometimes you get the ball in and you feel like you did it right, like you did something good. In jiu-jitsu, you basically get your ass kicked. You're basically unsuccessful whenever you compete in jiu-jitsu. And that goes on for about a month unless there happens to be other beginners starting out at your club at the same time as you. And I only trained jiu-jitsu for one summer, but I always say it's literally the most rewarding thing I ever did. And the only reason it's the most rewarding thing I ever did is because it was so damn miserable for a month where I did not, and in jiu-jitsu, the goal is to have a submission, which means you get your opponent to tap out. And I know it sounds kind of violent. It's not. It's actually safe and really totally cooperative and friendly as long as you're not an asshole about it, which in my experience, nobody was. So pickleball is easy, and in a way that stinks. But here's kind of my hope. My hope is that pickleball can be a gateway into tennis. And let me just say, the tennis skills did transfer. I was by far the best pickleball player among my girlfriend and her family. I was by far the best. Not even close. My team won. And whichever team I was going to be on was probably going to win. And that's because of my experience in tennis. My experience in getting my feet in the right position to hit a ball, to swing a racket and control a ball, and to understand how to control a racket face by using the proper grip, how to control a swing path, how to track a ball with my eyes to a contact point. Things that help me regardless of what racket sport I'm playing. They're just going to give me an edge, and I am good at them. right? So those tennis skills, they absolutely transferred to pickleball. So my hope is that people who are introduced to racket sports through pickleball will go to tennis. And that experience in pickleball, it will help them play tennis. It will help them transition to the sport. For some people, this won't happen, but I'm just hoping for some it will. There's going to be overlap. And my hope is that in some ways, pickleball can be a gateway drug for tennis. And I don't see why not, because just like the tennis skills transferred over to pickleball and will, set someone like me up in a position to transition into the sport easier, the same thing should happen pickleball to tennis. Now, what about pickleball as a spectator sport? What about the viewing appeal of pickleball? The answer is I don't know. Is professional pickleball going to be successful? Are people going to want to watch this sport? The answer is I don't know. I don't really have a prediction. But I will say the obvious appeal of playing the sport, and that's obvious and indisputable, that is not going to automatically mean that people are going to want to watch. Now, as much as, and I had to think about this, as much as I feel like tennis has kind of a unique advantage when it comes to bringing viewers in, because tennis is a sport where people can play their whole lives. And I think a lot of people engage with the sport and watch the sport through a certain and particular lens of also playing. And I think that's unique to tennis and golf. But I think in a lot of other sports, you play as a kid, you become an adult, you stop playing, and you're not engaging through the sport through a lens of continuing to play it. Of all the sports in the United States, the major sports, hockey, basketball, football, and baseball, there is no sport that is less accessible than football. And the NFL is king. It's the product that is by far the most successful in terms of TV ratings in the US. Not even close. Not even a ball game. Not even a contest. It's the NFL. The NFL is dominant. And second place is college football. Nobody plays football. There's almost no adults over the age of 21 playing tackle football. There's like zero. Yet it's king. So I feel like it's hard to make an argument that there is a direct line between the popularity of a sport as a sport to play and the popularity of a sport to watch on television. I don't think there's a straight line between the two. The popularity of pickleball as a sport that you play is not directly correlated to its prospects as a spectator sport. That's all I have to say about that.